The serial killer has the same personality characteristics as the sex offender against children. Nevada State Prison psychologist Dr. Mace Knapp. Hey everyone. Child sex abuse is a very difficult subject to discuss for many reasons. And for those of us who have either been victimized by it, as well as those of us who have had a loved one victimized by it, it's an extremely emotionally charged subject. Interestingly, humans are the only social animals who don't consistently kill or permanently exile those who prey upon our young. Every day, we hear feminist harpies scream from the highest mountaintop about their opposition to rape and sexual assault, from the #MeToo movement to the litany of accusations feminist organizations level at men across the world. To hear feminists tell it, all men are rapists. However, as you're about to discover, it's not just pedophiles who enable child sexual assault, but rather, it's also the feminists themselves. With that in mind, let's get started by discussing some facts related to child sexual assault. Darkness to Light is a nonprofit organization committed to empowering adults to prevent child sexual abuse that was founded in the year 2000. According to them, abusers can be neighbors, friends, and family members. People who sexually abuse children can be found in families, schools, churches, recreation centers, youth sports leagues, and other places children gather. Significantly, abusers can be and often are other children. About 90% of children who are victims of sexual abuse know their abuser. 70% of child sex offenders have between 1 and 9 victims, while 20% have between 10 and 40 victims. Child sex abuse makes children more vulnerable to sexual exploitation. More than 90% of children who are commercially sexually exploited have been sexually abused in the past. About 75% of child pornography victims are living at home when they are photographed. Parents are often responsible. Perpetrators report that they look for passive, quiet, troubled, lonely children from single-parent or broken homes. As you let those facts sink in, let's touch on that last one. To reiterate, child rapists look for children from single-parent or broken homes. In other words, they look for children living in homes created by feminism's war on men, marriage, and family values. To be clear, with the annual divorce rate at close to 50%, feminism's divorce revolution created an extremely fertile hunting ground for child sex abuse perpetrators. Not only did feminists create a friendly environment for child abusers, they also systemically helped cover up the child rape of many children and failed to report numerous child rapists to the authorities. Don't believe me? Well, Live Action, a pro-life organization, published an investigative report in May 2018 entitled Aiding Abusers, Planned Parenthood's Cover-Up of Child Sexual Abuse. In it, they state, before Cecil Richards retired as the president of Planned Parenthood Federation of America in 2018, she frequently claimed that her organization was part of the solution to sexual abuse in America, while in fact, it has been an enormous part of the problem. While Planned Parenthood frequently attempts to establish itself as a leading advocate on this critical issue, it is actually one of the biggest accomplices to child sexual abuse in the nation. Despite Planned Parenthood's public rhetoric, as well as state and federal laws requiring it to report suspected abuse, its failure to report has been deliberate and widespread. Time and time again, rather than reporting suspected abuse to authorities, Planned Parenthood has repeatedly looked the other way, performed abortions on victims as young as 12 years old, and then returned those victims into the waiting arms of their abusers. Planned Parenthood's repeated failure to report such incidents has allowed abusers to continue abusing their victims, often for years. This 29-page investigative report is damning. It cites cases from all over the United States. Here are some examples from the report's introduction itself. Denise Fairbanks had been sexually abused by her father since she was 13. When she became pregnant at age 16, he forced her to have an abortion at Planned Parenthood. Although she told the staff that he was raping her, they refused to report the incident. Instead, they sent her home with him, where he continued to abuse her for another year and a half. George Savannah had repeatedly raped his daughter and impregnated her when she was 14, 16, and 17 years old, each time taking her to Planned Parenthood and forcing her to get an abortion. Planned Parenthood neglected to report any of the 3 suspicious incidents to the authorities. Timothy David Smith had sexually abused his stepdaughter for 7 years and took her to Planned Parenthood when she became pregnant at 13. Planned Parenthood performed an abortion without notifying her parents and without reporting the suspected abuse to authorities as required by Colorado law. Planned Parenthood performed an abortion on a 12-year-old at the request of her 23-year-old foster brother, who was also her abuser. Sean Michael Stevens took her home afterwards and continued to rape her. Planned Parenthood not only neglected to notify authorities, but also failed to notify the victim's foster parents that they were going to perform the abortion. In addition, the investigative report also includes video links from an undercover investigation conducted by Live Action. I suggest everyone read the entirety of the report and watch the videos. They are extremely frightening. Also, even more damning, the feminists at Planned Parenthood, because they were funded by the government at the time this was happening, were using American taxpayer dollars to enable and empower child abusers to continue child rape sprees, often for years. The problem is not just the child abuse itself. It's also that these children have their lives destroyed and are more likely to grow up to become criminals themselves. The Institute for the Study of Labor from Bonn, Germany, published a discussion paper entitled, "Does Child Abuse Cause Crime?" The paper states, "We find that maltreatment approximately doubles the probability of engaging in many types of crime. Low socioeconomic status children are both more likely to be mistreated and suffer more damaging effects. Boys are at greater risk than girls, at least in terms of increased propensity to commit crime. Sexual abuse appears to have the largest negative effects, perhaps justifying the emphasis on this type of abuse in the literature." In addition, the Australian government's Institute of Family Studies found that violence and criminal behavior is another frequently identified long-term consequence of child abuse and neglect for survivors. Adults with a history of child physical abuse may be more likely to be violent and involved in criminal activity, as they have learned that such behavior is an appropriate method for responding to stress or conflict resolution. However, it doesn't end there. The United States National Institutes of Health published a paper from the peer-reviewed Journal of Human Resources entitled "Understanding the Cycle: Childhood Maltreatment and Future Crime," which states, "We find that child maltreatment roughly doubles the probability that an individual engages in many types of crime. Our results suggest that while not everyone who is abused becomes a criminal, maltreatment is a major determinant of future criminal behavior. Our study provides new evidence that the apparent negative effects of maltreatment on children's propensity to engage in crime are likely to be real and not simply artifacts of other features of dysfunctional families or even of dysfunctional children. Sexual abuse appears to have the largest effects on crime." So to answer the question, yes, feminists are enabling child sexual abuse through a combination of their century-long war on marriage and family values, as well as covering up child sexual abuse through feminist organizations such as Planned Parenthood. Further, because these child sex abuse victims are more likely to grow up to be the majority of the next generation of criminals, feminism is also directly responsible for increasing crime and destroying communities everywhere feminism has been adopted. Therefore, the best way to protect our children and our communities is to abandon feminist ideology and disband feminist organizations wherever we find them. If you've enjoyed this video, found it educational or insightful, please like, share, and subscribe to my channel, both on YouTube and on Bitchute.com. And don't forget to hit the bell so that hopefully you'll be notified when I upload new content. However, the best way to ensure you don't miss any of my content is to periodically check my channel both on YouTube and on Bitchute.com. You can also follow me at misandrytoday.com, gab.ai, minds.com, as well as support my work through Patreon. And don't forget to check out my sponsor, The Dollhouse. And, in case I'm targeted by YouTube, I mirror all my content on Bitchute. All the links are in the description. I'm DDJ, and this has been your dose of misandry today.